All right. So, quick update for you guys. First of all, welcome back from spring break. Um, Hold on one second. I'm just updating some stuff and then I'll kind of give you guys an update on what's going on. There we go. That should be nice. Okay, so I hope you guys all had a great spring break. I know they never feel long enough, right? But I hope everyone had some time to relax and decompress and not have to think about all the crazy stuff that's going on with school or work or anything like that. I, however, had a procedure over spring break, which unfortunately was to my ankle, and because of that, I don't have the ability to walk for the next several weeks. Um, this was something that I kind of knew. I knew was coming up, but I wasn't anticipating having to be off my feet for this long or having to have it elevated. And so I'm unfortunately not able to work from my normal desk because I can't elevate my leg. And so I'm going to be working kind of off my laptop, like in my living room. I don't have everything's not set up perfectly at the moment. So if it kind of seems a little discombobulated, we're going to work out the kinks together. So I really just appreciate your guys' patience during this time. I just want to make sure that I am live and everything looks good. Perfect to me. And let's kind of just get started in this. So, today we're going to be talking about hierarchies in After Effects. Well, let me kind of go back real quick and just touch base on the modules and just give you guys a reminder that the first round of revisions are going to be due tomorrow night. I think I have one person that sent in their revisions so far. I haven't had a chance to look at them, but we will go over those on Thursday. Um, but yeah, just a reminder for that. And hello, Sarah. I see that you're in the chat. I am watching on my large screen TV in the living room. So this time I'll be able to see you like when you pop up right away because unfortunately I don't have dual screens today, so or for the near future. So um yeah, that's kind of how this will go. Let me know if you guys have any issues hearing me or anything because I kind of have a mic set up and it's not an omnidimensional mic, so it's like it's more of a directional mic, and I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me, and it's not too quiet. So, and I will do my best to try and keep my environment quiet in the meantime. It's hard working from a living room, but I will do my best to give you guys the best experience possible. Anyways, so hierarchies in After Effects, the robot arm. This was something I was gonna initially teach you guys before we had spring break, but then with the Artists of Promise that was coming up, I wanted to squeeze in the other one because it would give you guys a chance to actually create something that you guys wanted to create and to submit that if you wanted to. But this one's pretty fun. So it's going to be, it's all done in After Effects. We're going to be using a technique called parenting to make objects with multiple, like to connect objects with multiple moving parts and animating them. Now, this is something that you would also do with like characters, right? And you'll kind of get more of the gist of what I'm talking about when we get into the project a little bit more. But we are going to be creating this animation right here. Let me make this large screen. It's a little bit, I'm sorry, it's not high def right now, but so as you see, the robot arm's going to come in. It's going to pick up a ball or an egg. It's going to swing back and it's going to chuck it out. And so we're going to go through this step by step. We're going to start in Illustrator, and I'm going to run through some Illustrator tools that you guys have already had a chance to kind of get to know while doing the 3-scene animation. And we're going to build ourselves out a robot arm. It might not look just like this. We're probably going to do something a little bit different. But this is the nice thing about this is that you guys kind of have a chance to be a little more creative with it and make it look like you want. And a couple things I added to this. Now here is a section. Let me see if I have that other. Let me see. Ooh, I do. Cool. Nice. Okay. So this reference part right here. This is going to just kind of, I think this is the last class that we did, that we taught and talked about. It wasn't really going over illustrating anything. It's just kind of a gist on how to parent and using multiple anchor points and hierarchies and stuff in After Effects. So it's not going to be the entire lesson plan, but it's just to kind of give you guys an idea of how it works. I also decided this time to add some color palettes into this lesson that you guys can download. It's a zip file, and it has different colors of color palettes, and they're all the same color. It's a gradient color palette. So if you open the purple color palette, it's going to be different shades and tints of purple, and so on and so forth. So if you guys wanted a little bit of inspirational color palettes, if you guys have trouble picking them or deciding what you want, you can go here and try that. Now, there are 3 different classes that I have posted on here right now, because like it says here, there's been, this class has been taught, this specific lesson has been taught for several semesters so far, so there's different variations of it. Casey does the animated robot arm right here on this YouTube video, and then this was my version from last semester, where I did a little bit more of a simplified one. And then we have another version here that was taught in past semesters. Ooh, let me go back. And just come a little bit more like some how to illustrate it, working in After Effects, and like adding all the touches. And then your deliverables for this one, let me see if I can do this nice, are going to be right here. This is what I want to see, right? So, 1 MP4 of your robot arm in animation, 1920 by 1080, 24 frames a second. Nothing changes there. I want to see a small version of the robot arm video, and I want you guys to post it to Slack. Again, there's a little tutorial on how to create a small version. And then just comment on each other's robot arms, because, you know, like I've been telling you all semester, feedback is important, right? And so, let me just kind of get to my lesson plans. Yeah, and so that's kind of where we're going to start today. I hope, by the way, I had mentioned previously before I started going over this lesson that the Artist of Promise submissions were due today. I hope some of you submitted some work, whether it was in this class or a different class, you know, taking a chance, and maybe you might not think you did well, but you'd be surprised that you can, you know, potentially win, and there's a cash prize with it. So I hope that you guys did take the time to do that. I didn't see anyone submitting or working on their own 3C animations over spring break, but you never know. So, all right, let's get into the meat and potatoes here. So I kind of started let me pull this out of my Dropbox and drop it onto my, move it out. All right. Put that right here. And here is the lesson. Now I've already kind of set it up a little bit. I have an After Effects folder. It's empty because we're going to start with a brand new file. And then I have the assets folder where I've actually started a robotic arm, but we're going to go through doing it together. So I am going to create a new file here. And then this is that color palettes folder that I was talking to you guys about. If I were to double click this is kind of what the color palettes look like. I'll probably be using the blue one and some grays today. But yeah, let's get started in this. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Illustrator. Where are you? There we go. Now, hierarchies, right? It's hierarchies. The definition of hierarchies is like being able to have something of the most importance stand out, and then so on and so forth as it goes down, right? And so it's also really called, you're going to hear it in animation, it's called rigging. You'll also hear me say parenting, rigging and parenting. Rigging is a technical term. It's when you link parts of an object together to create like a chain of control, right? And it's really the range of movement for a character or object to define its actions, gestures, or even movements. So the best way to describe it is like a regular human arm, right? When you look at a regular human arm, from the top, it's connected to the body, but it's connected with your shoulder, right? And then you have your upper arm to your elbow, to your forearm, to your wrist, to your hand, to your fingers. And now that would be the hierarchy, right? But your arm doesn't just start moving from your elbow. Your arm, when you go to move your arm around, it starts movement from the upper section, your shoulder, and then the rest of the arm kind of follows through with that motion. And so that's kind of what we're going to keep in mind here while we're rigging up this illustrated robot arm that we're going to create. And what's important to really remember when we're, let me type here. Come on. You going to let me type? There we go. There's really three things to kind of remember when we're doing rigging. The most important thing to remember is anchor points, right? We want to determine where they go. Where do they go? Question mark. The next thing that I would think is important is scale. Always, we want the scale to stay at 100, 100, right? I'm going to put comma 100. So when objects are parented to each other and you start to scale them, you come into issues with that, and I'll touch on that later, but this is something that's kind of important. Let me do this. This might be easier for now. Let's do this in Miro. Oh, boo. Okay, pass on Miro. I don't want to sign in right now. I'm going to go to Google Docs and create a blank one. But just some notes, right? Important things to remember. When rigging. One, anchor points. Where do they go? Two, scale. Should always remain at 100 by 100. And then finally, parents and children. I know this sounds weird. The naming is weird. But the parents and children, what they do is they establish your hierarchy. Good, I spelled that correctly. The parents and the children really establish the hierarchy that you want within that object, right? And so I can break this down a little bit further for you guys. So but let's break this down a little bit once we get into the animation part. Let's start the illustration real quick. But those are some important things to remember. I'll post those in the Miro as well so you guys can see. But we're going to start by creating a new file. And I usually use the film option right here, which is 1920 by 1080. And in case you don't see that in your recent items here, all you have to do is go up to this section right there and click on it. And it should have it as a preset already right here. The second one, HDTV 1080. And what that does is it just makes sure that your DPI or your PPI right here, points per inch, or dots per inch, is at 72 to work with screens. And then you get the 1920 1080. You can change the orientation, but we're not going to do that because we work in a landscape. Landscape. I don't know, orientation. So I'm going to create this file. Let me escape out of there. And then I've already got text. Let's delete that. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Save As. And I am going to save this to my assets folder. I'm going to name it Robot Arm 2. I'm going to save that. And I am going to just open up my other. Let me open up this one just in case so I have this on here. This was kind of the start of what I had going on, and I'm going to show you guys how to use a couple tools here in Illustrator and to get some of these shapes here that might not be so easy to draw by, you know, the pen tool, or just you're not going to get it naturally with the shape tools. So let's go back here. And the first thing I want to do is I want to bring in a reference photo. So I just kind of scoured the internet and I typed in robot arm illustration. So you can see there it pops up. And I just went through some of the images here and kind of found one that I liked that I thought would be useful for the class. You don't want, when you're looking for something specifically for this project, stay away from ones where they come down from the ceiling and only have one extension right there. We really want to see multiple points of movement. For example, like this one, right? This is rather simple, but that's okay. But we've got like a joint here with like an arm or extension, a joint here with another arm or extension, a joint here with like a wrist, and then like a claw of some sort, right? This is kind of what we're looking to build. In general, that's kind of what we've done over the past, all of the past projects here. But with that being said, you guys can pick any of these as references for yourself and then just kind of illustrate from them. Now, the one thing I did, I think I grabbed this one as like, I believe this is the one that I used for, I don't know. I have one already saved. I'm going to close this down and just pull that in. And then I just was picking and choosing between which specific robot arms that I wanted to use parts from. So I have a references folder under my assets folder. I'm going to go ahead and take this and drag it into here. That's just the image that I was, nope, this is not the one. It was the other one. Under desktop. Hey Sarah, can you hear me just fine on there? Now I'm just going to copy this and bring it into here. And I'm going to move it off to the side, scale it down, and I'm just going to kind of look at this throughout the process so that it can build my robot arm right here. And then I'm going to go, and the biggest thing that I would like you guys to take away from this, right, is that any object that is going to move should be on a separate layer. Right? Like I want you guys to make sure, okay, cool. Thank you, Sarah. remember, like, just kind of like in After Effects, each layer can be moved separately, right? So any kind of part on this robotic arm that could move separately on its own should be on its own layer. And so you're going to notice that I'm going to have several layers going on here while I illustrate this. And then I want you guys to really, really get down naming your layers. It's important to name these layers early on so that you don't get mixed up. And then when it comes to parenting, you know exactly where certain things where certain objects link up to, right? So naming your layers is especially important in this process. And then what we're going to do is we're going to import the Illustrator document into After Effects, right? We're going to import it as a composition. And so best practices here. Let's start labeling these. I'm going to label this one reference. I'm going to lock that in. I probably won't move it from there, but I can always unlock it if I want. And then I'm going to add another layer, and I'm going to kind of look at these. And now, the one thing I noticed is like they all have that similar thing where there's like a base, right? Again, from the wall, let's not do that. Or from the ceiling, we don't want that. We want it to come from the floor. But if this one for some reason you guys pick the same references and you like that, just flip it around 180 degrees or whatever, and then just have it moving from the floor, right? But we are going to take some references from this and kind of break it down, right? So we see like a base kind of here, same base as there, kind of like a shoulder joint, and then the first arm, another joint, second arm, like a wrist joint, and then like some kind of claw, right? So let's do that. Let's start here. Let's create one called base. And there are some tools that I want you guys to get familiar with inside of Illustrator that's going to make this particular process much easier. There are the selection tool. The shortcut is V. Actually, let's go ahead and do this inside of here so I can put it in Miro. I think it's this one right here. Tools for Adobe, or let's see. Illustrator shortcuts, right? These are the main tools that we're going to be using specifically in, wrong one, in this project. Definitely going to be using the selection tool, and I'll go through what these ones look like once I get back into Illustrator. We're going to also be using the direct select tool. Shortcut for this one is A. Shortcut for the selection tool is V. The pen tool, shortcut for that is P. Let's see, the shape tools, which for a square is M, and then for circles are L, I believe. And then the shape builder tool, which is so awesome that they put this in there, which is Shift plus M. Right, and these are really the main tools that we're going to be using inside of Illustrator. You might see me do something a little bit different, maybe grab onto something else, but in general, these are the ones that you guys really need to know and get used to using these shortcuts so you can work a little bit faster when doing this. And so I'm going to grab the rectangle tool. I'm going to hit M, and on my base, I'm going to draw just kind of a rectangle here. And I kind of want to, let's bring in what I kind of already did for reference. Let's grab this, and I'll just kind of recreate this for you guys. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to add this back to the reference layer here. Paste it there. Bring it over. And lock this bad boy. Okay, cool. And so at this very bottom right there, I might, we might want to add some wheels to this one because we're going to animate this from off screen to on screen. So let's maybe kind of take a little bit more from this one a little bit and build it with some wheels, right? So we have some wheel motion happening. So I'm going to add the base. I'm going to kind of make it a little shorter. I'm not worrying about the color at the moment because I will adjust that as needed. And then I'm going to bring this one up. Shift, if you hold down Shift and click Alt, hold down Shift and Alt at the same time and then select your object and drag it, what it does is it duplicates for you. So when you see this, I've got the object selected. I hold down Shift, hold down Alt, and then, come on now. Is it Control Alt? No, Shift Alt. You don't want to do this, do you? Shift. Never mind. Why are you not working? Oh, it's just Alt. You don't have to hold down Shift. Just Alt. And then you click and drag, and then you hold down Shift, and it'll kind of lock it into place so it can't move. It moves in like blocks instead of like all around like this if you hold that Shift down. But first, you just click Alt, right? And then you can duplicate these. You can duplicate objects and shapes and stuff as much as you want doing that. So I will just take this now, holding down Shift. I'm going to drag it here, back up, right there. And then I'm going to kind of increase the size of this, but then I'm going to hold down Alt. And if you do that, you notice that it stays in one place, but you can change kind of the scale of the object. And it will scale, it'll scale from the center point, which is a really good tip to know. I use that often. And then I'm going to add that kind of top section there. I'm going to round these corners off so it's kind of like that. So in order to round, I just want these top edges rounded and not the bottom. And so I'm going to hit my direct selection tool, which is A. I'm going to drag and kind of click here and just select the top corners vertexes. And then I'm going to click these little circles and I'm going to drag this way. Not all the way, maybe right to there. And that just rounds these corners off for you. It adds an extra vertex in there. And just smoothly and does it evenly for you so that you don't have to worry about making it perfect the first time. And I'm actually going to do that kind of here as well. So I'm going to make it very similar to what I have here, but I'm just going to add wheels, I think. And then, yeah, let's add like kind of this little section that I have here on there. So I'm going to hit M or your selection, your shape tool. Again, I'm just going to draw another rectangle. And then this one, I'm going to hit V and Alt, drag, and Shift, and duplicate that. And then I'm going to hit A again to the direct select tool. By the way, these are the tools that I was talking about right here. Let me, come on now. Okay. Selection tool, direct selection tool, pen tool, shape tool, and shape builder tool right there. Now, what's nice is if you see these little tiny, if you see these little tiny arrows next to the tools, that means there's other tools hidden behind this one, right? So all you have to do to access them is you kind of long click and then it'll show out here and then you can select it that way. You can click here, do that. You can do it this way and go down. See, there's a lot of hidden little tools in here that you might not necessarily see right away, but they're just hidden within the menu. They're nested inside of it. And so I'm going to grab that direct selection tool and then we're going to go ahead and round off these corners as well. And I'm going to zoom out and I'm just going to use the colors that I had here to color this as well. I'm just going to kind of rebuild what I had. Close this up. And notice that I imported and brought in those color palettes that I linked to you guys so that you guys can use. And so I just put those at the top, and I use the eyedropper tool, which is, let me see here. Eyedropper tool. Shortcut for that is just I. Let me add that into here. And that just changes the color of your object or shape for you. It's I wish it had, I mean, I should have used the one with a sans or a serif font, but I have a sans serif. Anyways, go here, right down. So if you notice that this section right here and this one right here are the same color, so I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to have my regular selection tool V. I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to hold down Shift and select that one, and I'm just going to hit I for the eyedropper tool and click there. Just click right over the color that you want it to be, and I'm going to select this one, hit I, click, V, I, select this one, I, click, nope, not that section, that one right there. There we go. And so now we really have our base kind of going here. The one thing I notice is that these sections overlap, and I don't want that. So I'm going to click and just drag those up, and then maybe just kind of scale this down a tiny bit so it's not so tall. And let's make sure that these are all aligned with each other. So I'm going to drag with my selection tool and select all of them. And up at the top here, you have a panel which has these like series of boxes with all these lines next to them. And these are this is your alignment panel, right? This is distributing, this section right here is distributing, wrong one. Distributing objects. Come on now. No? My computer here runs a little slow. Anyways, that section right there, this one, is distributing things, objects within, the distribution happens within the objects that you have selected, right? So if you have if you want to make sure there's the same amount of distance between 3 shapes, you select all of them and then you distribute them evenly. And these ones are going to align your objects specifically either to each other, right? Like if you have a bunch of shapes or objects selected and you hit this one to horizontally align and this one to vertically align, or this one's horizontal and this one's a vertical alignment. And if you click those, it will align them all to the center of whichever one you grabbed first. It's kind of confusing, but I have all of these selected, and all I want to do is make sure that they're all vertically aligned so that everything is in the center there. So I'm going to click that button and notice how they kind of shift to each other. And then I'm just going to grab those again and group them together. And now the next part that I have built on my robot that I'm going to use for reference instead of this one is this shoulder gear type thing, right? And so I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to name that shoulder joint. And I'm going to select that layer. And I'm going to hit L to bring up the circle, right? The ellipse tool. And I'm going to hold down Shift and I'm going to draw a circle. And then I'm going to hit V, hold down Alt, and I'm going to click and drag and holding down Shift. I'm going to bring down another circle. And then I want to scale it, but I want to scale it from the center and not from whatever corner I grab. So I'm going to hold Alt, and then I'm going to just hold down Shift, and I'm going to scale it that way. Notice it scales it from the center. Come on now. Scales it evenly from the center. Make sure you're holding down that Shift, right? And I'm going to drag this down just slightly so there kind of looks like a half of a snowman, right? But I don't want these sections to really be separate. I want them to be one entire object. And so I'm going to drag and select them both. And I'm going to hit Shift M as in Mary to grab this shape builder tool right over here. And notice that when I hover over top of the sections of my selected shapes, it gives like this kind of hash mark looking, it changes like the visuals of it, right? And that just means that these are the areas, if you click and drag over these areas, it's going to join them together, essentially building a new shape. And so I want this to all be one shape. I'm going to click here and I'm going to drag it all the way through. It doesn't have to be a pretty drag. It just has to be a drag. Notice how it's red all around the shape all of a sudden, because that is the new shape that you're going to create. And then as soon as I let go, we have a brand new joined shape. It's one singular one. If I hit V and start to rotate this, it is not two circles anymore. It is one little snowman guy, technically looking. It's a shoulder joint. That's what we're going to be using it for. And so I'm going to bring that over to the section, and notice how it kind of automatically snaps into place there, which is awesome. I'm going to drag this down a little bit more. And let's build those little, actually, let's kind of smooth this section out here so it's not just like a hard angle on the inside. And so I'm going to hit A and grab my direct selection tool and just click on these two little corner vertexes, grab these little targets, and then just kind of drag them out a little bit, and it's going to smooth that corner out so it's a nice curved, smoothly curved edge. And I am going to make it the same color as the base right there. Now, that's great, but then when I click off, it's hard to differentiate between those. And so I kind of created like this tiny little shadow underneath, so that you could differentiate the shoulder joint from the base. And so how I did that is I hit Control, I select this object with my selection tool, and I'm going to hit Control C, Shift Control V. If you hold down Shift Control and then hit V, it will paste the object in the exact place. So watch, if I move this, there's still another one there, but it just pasted this one on top of it. Versus if I were to, let me see, I undid that, perfect. If I Control C, Control V, it's just going to paste it wherever, like to wherever it wants to within the range of where you're working at right now. So I'm going to Shift Control V, paste it in place. We do have it there. Go back. And then I'm going to change this color so I can see it. Actually, yeah, I'm going to change this color to, hit I and change it to this dark kind of gray that I have there. Hit V again. And I'm going to hold down Alt and Shift and just kind of make this a little bit bigger. Oh, come on. Scale it just slightly. That's too much. Too much. The other one is no longer there. Let's do this again. Control C, Shift Control V. Let's change that color to this one. Hit V. Select this one. Shift and Alt to just kind of slightly scale it. And then if I hold down Control and hit a bracket key, it's going to drop that behind this object. And notice we're still working on the shoulder joint layer, right? That's important to know. And then I'm going to, I don't really want this shadow to, I don't want it all up here, right? Because that looks kind of funny. So I want to just have it in this bottom section right here, which means I actually want this on my base layer so that when I start to move this shoulder when we animate, it doesn't also move the shadow. The shadow will just be in place and it won't really change when it's on the base. So if you're selected on an object and you want to change it from one layer to another, you just see this little green square right here. It's indicating the selected object that you have. Like if I had multiple objects selected on this layer, it would move any of the ones I have selected. So I want to make sure that I only click on the big darker gray shape there, and I'm going to just select this little thing and I'm going to drag it down to the base. And then notice like the color on the outside changes, and that's because all of a sudden it's on a different layer which has a different color. So indicator so that you can see which layer you're working from. And then this one seems to have moved with it. So I'm going to just bring that one up and leave that one right here. So when I shy that layer, it just kind of goes away. And then let's cut this shape off right on this section here. So I am going to hit M for my square shape build or shape tool, and I'm just going to kind of draw a square over here. And then I'm going to hit V and select this weird shape, this little snowman shape, and select that square that I just made. And I'm going to hit the Shift M tool. And then I don't really want to conjoin the shape so it's like one big square. I just want this little section here. And I kind of want to delete that and delete this section. So instead of clicking and dragging like I did before, I am just going to hover over one area and click once. Hover over here, click once. Hover over this, click once. And then what that does is it kind of like cuts the shape apart actually. And so when I click here, I can delete that, click here and delete this. And then I'm left with this half circle shape. And then when I unshy and I show this layer of the joint, it is there. So then if I were to rotate this like later on, it's not going to rotate from like a normal anchor point, but this rotates and this does not. And that is what we're looking for. So I'm going to relock that base. And we have like a little bit of a defining shadow there. And so let's, the next thing I have on here, I think are some gears, right? So let's recreate these gears. And this is going to be, this is fun. You guys are going to get to see how to use the radial like mirroring tool. Because they used to not have a mirroring tool inside of Illustrator, but they do now. And it's amazing. I'm so happy they integrated it because it was really frustrating to have to mirror and distribute something in a radial pattern around an object and make sure that they were evenly distributed and also on the same plane. It's kind of, unless you've tried it before, it's hard to explain, especially because we have this new tool that makes it a lot easier. So just one second here. I'm going to grab my mouse. I'm working from my trackpad and it's driving me nuts. Sarah, how was your spring break? Did you enjoy it? All right, let's start this gear right here. And so I'm going to go back over to this section and I'm going to hit L to select that ellipse tool. I'm going to kind of just draw a circle about that big. I'm going to center that circle kind of here. Let's change the color. I had mine white. We're going to put this white so that you guys can see kind of where it is. And I just want to set it in the center. I can take this and just click this to make sure it's centered, which it was. And I'm just going to kind of grab that and arrow it down a little bit so it's just a little bit, it's not so high up. And I might just scale this slightly down as well. Holding down Shift and Alt to bring that down. And then I want to duplicate this. Actually, let's do that in a second. No, we can do this now. Control C, Shift Control V to duplicate it in place. And then I'm going to hit I, and I'm going to color it this dark gray. And then I'm going to hold down Alt and Shift, and then click that corner. And I'm going to scale this down right in the center of the actual, like, kind of circular gear area there. I think I did that already. Perfect, yeah. And then I have another circle, different color. All right. And so I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to do the same thing. Control C, Shift Control V. Hit I, change the color, hit V, Alt Shift, and then scale. Let's zoom in a little bit. And now I want to create kind of the gears that go around, or the little notches that go around this gear, right? You don't have to do this. This is just something I figured I would show you guys. And so I'm going to hit M to grab the rectangle tool, and I'm going to just kind of draw a little rectangle off screen, probably about this big. I'm going to hit I, and I'm going to change the color to that dark gray. I'm going to move it over, center it with this circle. And then I'm going to, with that selected, I'm going to go up to Object and down to Repeat and Radial Repeat. And now all of a sudden it's repeating. You can see that by like the wireframing kind of happening on the shape, but it's not repeating in the right place that I want it to be. And so I'm going to grab this corner and I'm going to just kind of hold down Shift and Alt and scale it up. Bring that and center it. And then I think for this one, nope, this is how many instances of that shape you want, right? We're going to probably want 8. But I want these to be much smaller so that you can see the spacing in between. And I think that's how you do it. So instead of scaling that right there, I'm going to center this in the middle of the circles. And I'm going to grab this little white circle right there and I'm going to click and drag it out until it looks kind of centered with the sphere. And then if I wanted to change the instances, I can do it this way. I want the 8. There we go. And then this one right here will, I think, changes the stopping and the starting point. So if you only wanted it halfway around, you could do it like that. But we don't want that. It's a gear, so we want the entire thing. And then, like, if you needed to make any changes, I think, to the box, like if I wanted it rounded edges, I could do that, and it would round the edges. You just have to double click and kind of, you're like soloing. It's almost like soloing a layer in After Effects, right? You just double click that one, and you can update the shape from there. Also, if you've made the change and you later want to make a change, if you go over here to your Properties tab and you click on this, it always shows any kind of effects or anything that you have on that object. So if I click on that, you'll notice that all of a sudden the repeat options is down here in your Properties panel. And so I can change the location of it and the amount of iterations that are there. And so that looks pretty cool to me. I'm going to just, it looks pretty close to what I had before. I'm going to select that, select this, and this circle, and I'm going to group those together. And to check that it's grouped, yep, I just move one and they all move, right? And then I am going to Alt and drag, holding down Shift. And then I'm just going to hold down Shift and Alt, and I'm going to drag that down so it's smaller. So I can put it up there. Move it a little bit down. And just holding down Shift, selecting them all, and make sure everything's aligned, which they are. Then I'm going to save this, right? Because I've done some stuff, so I want to make sure I save it. And now let's move on to making the arm that I have created here and kind of this neat little pattern. So you can do all sorts of patterns and stuff within your robot arm if you want. I know that there are some that Casey has done where he's done like some cutouts and stuff, specifically in this one and this one and this one at the top, because he takes some sections of this and cuts it out. I'm going to make a little bit of a simpler version for this class, and then but if you like this idea more, you can use this one as a reference as well. But he's got patterns and there's 2, and they all look different. The pink one's neat. This one looks cool too. So let's go back here. And let's create this kind of linking arm shape. So I'm going to go over here. Let's create a new layer. And this one we'll call arm. Okay, we did that one shoulder, so like upper link is what I'll call it. I'll call it a link right now. Hit OK. And this section is actually a rectangle. So if I hit M for the shape tool, making sure that I'm on the layer that I just created, I'm going to just kind of click and drag and make a nice tall rectangle. I'm going to hit I, copy that color, and then I want to bring it about right here to see it's about the right thickness and height that I like. I might be able to shorten it a little bit, but let's see. And I want it to kind of be rounded at the bottom because you got to think we're going to be rotating this arm back and forth. And so I don't really want these hard edges coming out if it does happen to overshoot around the shoulder gear. So I'm going to take, hit L, and we're going to create another ellipse down kind of right here. I'm going to start there. I'm going to hold down Shift and Alt. I'm going to make it the width of the entire arm that I just created. In fact, I'm going to hide this shoulder joint so I can't see it or lock it up, so I don't select other things. And then I am going to hit select both of the objects, Shift M for the selection tool, and I'm just going to kind of drag because I want to create one solid shape here, but I don't want these little areas, right? I don't need these little pokey corners. And so I'm going to hit V, and then when I let go, you notice I can select that, delete it. Select this and delete it, and then I have a nice kind of smoothed out bottom, almost like a little test tube shape right there, right? And so then I can untry that. Now, the thing that's off here, right, is we want this gear to be on top of this arm, and so layer order does matter. So I'm going to take the upper link and I'm just going to drag it below that shoulder joint, and then all of a sudden it comes down here, and I'm just kind of drop it down slightly so that I can see. You can see the nice thing is in Illustrator when you're selected on a shape, you can still see the wire framing that's happening around the shape, even if it's below a layer. So I can see kind of where it's landing underneath this layer. And I just want it to be landing around where this gear is, because this gear is technically what I would want to be connecting to this arm. And I am going to now create, let's do this little shadow here, and then we're going to hit the pattern, and then we'll go up to this gear. And so we can do the shadow in kind of a similar way. I'm going to select, let's do it a different one. Let's select the ellipse tool. I'm going to hold down Shift and Alt and create kind of a circle. And I want it to almost be about the same size as this shoulder. So if I put it here, it's about the same size. Let me tap it up. All right. And then I'm going to hold Alt Shift and then just kind of drag it up a little bit. And let's hide the shoulder joint again. And I want to change the color of it to this light gray so I can see the difference. And I am going to select, I'm going to take this beaker kind of shape, or not beaker, but like test tube shape, and I'm going to Control C, Shift Control V, so it's going to paste it on top. And then I'm going to select this one and this one, and I'm going to hit Shift M, and all I want is this section really. So I just click there, it should have created it. I can click on this and delete, click on this section and delete it, and then we have this whole shape and this little shape right there. I'm going to select them both and group them together. We're hitting Control G. And then when I bring this back up, it just kind of appears as like a little shadow. And this little shadow will follow this linked arm because it is a part of this shape now. Ooh. All right. So let's create this section right here. And so if you notice, this is kind of a similar, we're going to do like a similar thing that we did when creating the link arm. On this arm, the upper link shape, I'm going to create like a rectangle, and I'm going to hit V, and I'm going to round the entire thing. So I didn't have to select any of the corners. I just selected these little things and dragged them in towards the middle of the shape, and it rounds off those corners for you. And then I'm going to create a rectangle about that thick, Let's change the color to this blue just for a second. And I'm going to drag this down over here, making sure they're lined up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to just kind of turn it at an angle. And if I want the angle to be precise, I'll just go into here to my properties and I can just change this to like a 35-degree angle. Even, let's just do a 30. I think that looks good. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to Alt, Shift, and drag. Now, I want it to have even spacing in between, but if I Alt, Shift, and drag, it's not guaranteed that it's going to be like that. So what you can do is hit Control D, and when you hit the Control D, it's going to do the exact same action that you just did, which is really nice. It's a very fast shortcut. So if you're trying to create a bunch of these, you can do this like this, and there's a couple other ways, but for this instance, this is going to work for us. And we have, let me see, 1, 2, 3 showing. Now remember, once I use the shape builder tool on this, we're going to have this section showing. The white part is what's going to be left. So we'll have this section, 2, 3, 4. We need one more, so hit Control D. Let's duplicate that again. And now I'm going to select them all and hit the select the shape builder tool. And I'm going to do this and select this one, and this one. And then I can go through and select these and delete them. Delete this, this, and this. And delete these. Select these 3 and delete them. And then also delete these. And so I'm left with kind of like a sheared angled shape here, and then I can select, and each one of them are separate, so I can select that and pick the color that I wanted to use. Same with this one. It's a little bit thinner than my other one, but that's okay. Then this one, and then this one. And then I'm going to select all of them and group them together so that when I move it around, it's not going to move all over the place. I'm just going to kind of place it somewhere in the center there. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. See if this kind of makes it kind of makes the, notice how it skews that a little bit weirdly. So I'm going to just hold Shift and Alt and then evenly scale it right there and just kind of move it up so it's a little bit bigger. And then we want to create the elbow joint right here. And so, do I have that tapered? I do not. Let's do this. Instead of creating that gear thing again, we're just going to unlock the shoulder joint. We're going to grab that, which is one whole piece, and we're going to Control C. And then we're going to select this upper link arm thing, and we're going to make sure we're on that layer, and you're going to Control V. And it's just going to copy and paste it to that specific layer. But that is actually not what we want, right? We need this elbow joint to be different on a different layer. So I'm going to go up above here, create a new layer, name it elbow joint. And then I'm going to grab that shape that I have selected and move it to that layer. And so now if I were to shy that layer, you can see that it is on there appropriately. But we need to scale it up, right, because it's showing some of that, the sides of that arm, and we don't want that, so we are going to Shift and drag that up until it's about right there. And then I just want to change the color of this white circle. I just double clicked until I got into there. And then notice it's this color, so I'm going to hit I. And even though it's kind of transparent, if you click on it, it's going to still pick the same exact color that it is. It's going to recognize it without the transparency, which is really nice that it actually does that. So we are going to do that. I think I'm going to take this upper link arm and select the whole thing. And I'm going to just kind of scale it in slightly. I don't need it so wide. That looks nice. Right there. All right, and so we created the elbow joint. Did I create another linked? I don't think we have to because this, we want this gear to actually move with the arm, right? So let me let me label this different. Let me link one, one, and this one will be link two, and let's kind of take this, right, and just copy and paste it to here. So I'm gonna Control C, click on this link to, Control V, so I have the whole thing here. Great. And I'm gonna bring it, notice it's gonna be running off of our artboard. That's okay. I'm gonna kind of bring it down here, make sure that this is in line with this gear that we just created. I'm going to bring this gear to the front by holding Control and hitting the brackets on my keyboard. And then we don't need it to be this large because it needs to be smaller than the other one. So I'm going to Shift and Alt and just kind of scale this down quite a bit. There we go. That looks pretty nice. Let's select this section and we can Control C, go to our link to, and Control V, and center it there. Just kind of Shift Alt scale it down. Right there. Now let's let's taper this down like you would see in like a regular arm, right? Like if you look at your arm, your forearm obviously tapers down to your wrist. And so I'm going to hit the direct selection tool and I'm going to select these two vertexes. And up here, actually, you don't even have to do that. Over under the free transform tool, not that one. Yes, it is the free transform tool. There's going to be an option that's going to be like a taper. So you have to select the entire, you have to select the entire shape. And then go into this area and you're going to select this tool right here, which is the tapering. This is a free transform kind of like little, don't go away, toolbox thing, and you can distort perspective this way, right? This is a free distortion, so if I were to select that and grab any of these corners and move them, it will distort it based on whichever corner you grab, but this one does it evenly, right? And I want that to happen, so I'm going to hover over this little vertex, and then when I grab it and drag in, notice that it tapers it and kind of tapers all the following shapes down as well. So I'm going to hit V, and then I'm going to send that again to the back, and then it did kind of mess up the shape right here, so I'm going to redo that. I'm going to redo that gray part. I'm going to grab this arm and Shift Control G, which is going to ungroup things. And then I'm going to Shift Control G again. Maybe it'll work again. Yep, and I'm going to just delete that. And then I'm going to grab the ellipse tool, create a circle kind of about the same size as this one. Holding down Shift, a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to send it to the back. Actually, forward one. I'm going to hit V. I'm going to take this white linked arm section, Control C, Shift Control V. Take this gray one again, move that to the front just so I can see this here. Grab these two objects, Shift M, and then I just need that part right there. So then I'll hit V, click off, select that, delete it, select this, delete it, then recolor this back to that light gray, which is right here. There you go. And then I'm just going to kind of send this back until it's behind this gear there. I'm going to save my work. And then I'm going to just, if you click on this little circle over in the corner, it will, this little circle right here specifically will select everything that you click on that layer. And you can hold down shift and click multiples, right? But I don't want that. I just want the entire link to selected. And then I'm going to just kind of rotate this so that I can put it in a position that I like a little bit more. And this will change once I bring it into After Effects as well. And then there we go. We have our second part of our arm. And now we're going to create the wrist joint. And I'm actually going to, let's round off these edges there. Hit A. I'm going to select these both. I'm going to just click and drag that down. And I'm going to do the same to this one right here. Select this one. Shift, select this one, drag to create a rounded arm, and then I'm just going to grab this link too and drag it down slightly so that it is not showing the curves of the other arm. Here we go. Cool. Yeah, we're looking like we're getting to this kind of point as well. And then the whole thing about grabbing the, in fact, I'll just, no, I already have it here. I'm not going to do that. I'll lock that one. We're going to lock this one. And let's make our wrist joint right now. So add a layer. Name it. Unlock that. I'm going to select this. Command C. Go to the wrist joint. Command V. Bring it down here and then scale it down. Not much bigger. Right there is good. And then we kind of want to make like a connective point for the hand. And I didn't get that far before, but let's do that right now. Let's kind of make it look like that's kind of cool, but let me do, I'm going to make it kind of maybe look like this one right here. And so let's hit L for the, nope, M for the rectangle tool. And I'm going to create kind of a skinny little rectangle right there. And I'm going to bring that over to the wrist joint. And then we're going to make it a little bit longer. And we're going to round off those edges there and kind of move it up to be centered with this wrist joint. And then let's bring that wrist joint to the front and save our work. And then let's create kind of like that half moon shape that we saw there. So I'm going to hit circle, grab the ellipse tool, hit shift, create a circle, bring that over here, line that up. I'm going to change the color to maybe like this darker gray. Let's try that. But then I only wanted a half of a circle, right? So instead of using the shape builder tool, you just hit the direct selection tool, which is A. Select this vertex right down here, and if I delete it, it is going to create that half shape. But notice now it's not joined up together, and so it's kind of just an open-ended shape. So I'm going to select these two vertexes, and I'm going to right click and go up to join, and then kind of just create the shape that way. And I am going to, we want this to be linked to this section, so it's not really going to move. And let's kind of draw, let's hit M to grab the tool. Let's draw a little thing like that. And we'll color it this color. And then it had, just gonna scale out and kind of look at this one more. All right, we can put like another, we can make that one smaller, put another little section there, like kind of a rounded rectangle shape, and then the little claw things. So let's do that here. I'm going to select that, holding Alt, kind of make it a little bit smaller. We're going to select this shape, Alt, drag it, holding Shift, and bring it down this way, and we're going to shorten it quite a bit. So it's like that. And then we're going to take these, I don't want this part rounded, so I'm just going to grab that little circle section and that little target, and then just bring it all the way back to a corner, and it'll square off that shape again for you. And then we had like another rounded rectangle, so I'm going to cancel that, create another rectangle, maybe a little bit longer, right there. Hold on V, hit A, round that one off, change the color. And then I think the other one had a couple little circles, so I'm going to grab the ellipse tool, create a tiny, tiny little circle, change color, there, hold on V, bring that over. I know it might be a little bit hard to see because they're all gray and the background's gray, but if you need to throw in a background so it's easier to see this stuff, you can always do that too. Hold down Shift and I'll drag that over there. And then let's make the fingers, right? But the fingers or the grippers have to move on their own, so I'm going to lock that link too. And then this whole section is going to move by itself. One giant like arm, right? So then let's create another layer and name this one like grippers or fingers or whatever you want to name it. Save my work. And then this one is kind of, let's use a pen tool for this. Zoom in there. We might have to scale this up a little bit in a minute, but let's do that now actually. First of all, let's align everything, which it already was. Hold down Alt, Shift, and then just kind of drag it. Oop, I missed the circles. Alt, Shift, click and drag. Bring that down. Let's group all these together because this is all one shape. And then I want to align it with this little arm part right there. Perfect. I think that looks like an appropriate size for this. Yes. Yes, it does. Alright, and let's grab that pen tool. Let's make this one, Shift Control G to ungroup everything. Let's take this and just kind of make it a little bit longer and larger so that our claws have something a little bit more meatier to be attached to so they don't just fall off. And then I hit P for the pen tool. P is in Peter. And I'm just going to kind of start drawing like a finger, holding down Shift, there, 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 not bad. Let's look at it in comparison to the size of the, let's scale it up a bit. And I want it to, and notice that it's on the wrist joint. And so I'm going to bring this one and drag it there. So it is now on the gripper thing. And then I want to drag this layer below the wrist joint. And so we have this here. Let's round these edges here. Notice when I don't select specific edges and I hit that round corner, it's going to round everything, but it's going to round them all to where they can maximum, the maximum roundness can be, specifically where it first stops, which seems to be right here or like right in this little elbow area right there. And so I kind of want this section to be a little bit more rounded. Select this, hit A, let's select these ones and round these ones off. And then we'll select this one in this corner here, and then we will separately round those so it creates a nice like fully rounded shape. And then let's extend it a little bit. Let's make it a little bit longer. Hold down shift. Let's just equally change the height of it. And then this is okay, but I think it's a little thick. That works. You know, so if we start rotating that, I'm going to rotate around this section right here. And move this circle maybe to the center of where that is. Now, instead of creating a second little gripper claw, I'm going to delete this. Actually, let's not delete that. Let's holding down shift and bring that in. It looks like they're about lined up. Let's line them up with this edge here. There we go. And that way, this can kind of line up with this. All right, looks nice. And then we're going to duplicate this inside of After Effects and then rotate it or mirror it so that it is the other claw on the other side. We just don't have to do that work here because it's much simpler to do inside of After Effects. And so here we have our claw, like our robotic arm started. I think that the couple things that I noticed about this one is I want to change kind of the scaling of some of this stuff. So I'm going to take the base. I'm actually going to take this first shoulder joint and scale this down a little bit. Not the link, but the shoulder joint. Holding down Alt and Shift, let's scale this down just slightly. Zoom in there, move it up. Yeah, I like that a little bit better. It's not so big. And then I'm going to bring this base up. Oop. Make sure to grab that, group that with it. And let's Shift and Alt and just kind of bring this down a little bit too because it's a little bit big. And then we're going to do this in a second. Okay. Bring this up to this area and then Shift and kind of just scale it down right to there. That looks nice. Grab it and move it up. You can use your arrow keys to kind of nudge things up 1 to 2, like a few pixels at a time. And then you want to save this, right? And so here we have our robotic arm. Woohoo! The size looks pretty good to me. We've got 1, 2, 3 joints lined up here to rotate around. And we have 2 arms. The more arms you start adding into things, actually 3 limbs, right? 1, 2, 3. And the more you start adding into stuff, the more complex it's going to get. So just keep that in mind when you're illustrating this. And if you just kind of want to start off, follow what we're doing here, and then have a little bit more fun later, you can always do that as well. Megan, let me answer this question live for you. Awesome. Or maybe not, because it's a direct message, so I will answer that later. Is there anyone in the chat right now? Let me know. I'm going to go grab a quick drink of water. And just take a few minute break here. So take 5 to 10 minutes to your guys' self if you want to start like illustrating this kind of stuff. And then we are going to, it's all saved up. I'm going to close this out. And I'm going to just put up a little thing that says, let's open a new doc. I go back here, new doc. And it's just going to say BRB. And I'll just make this big. so that everyone knows that we're just going to take a quick break with this bead. 200. There we go. Be right back. Okay, guys, let's take a real quick 5 to 10 minute break. And then when I get back to here, we'll continue. We're going to bring it into After Effects. And we are going to start animation, right? We're going to start rigging first. So I'll be right back. I'm not going to shut the live stream down. I'm just going to leave this up on screen and then just kind of mute the mic. So, all right, you guys. By the way, Sarah, I missed that your birthday was on the 13th. Happy birthday! I'm happy you got to celebrate over the week. All right, now I'll be right back. All right, you guys, we are back. Thank you so much for this interruption in our broadcast so that I could do some stuff, get myself something to drink. It takes me a little bit longer to do things now, unfortunately, so, but, it won't be forever. They just told me a 6 month to 12 month recovery period, so I was a little taken aback by that at first, but things happen. I was hiking North Mountain with my wife, and um, we were running at night, and it was getting dark and uneven, and I didn't trust my gut, and I continued to go to do what I knew I shouldn't have done, and I twisted my ankle real bad, and turns out I needed surgery, and so that is what happened. So if anything, I can tell you guys from that experience is trust your gut, right? When your intuition's telling you something's up, usually there is something up, and maybe you should just listen to what that inner parent essentially is telling you to do, because mine told me to stop and slow down, and I did not, and now I am paying for it. But and these are kind of the kinks that I was talking about will work out while I'm kind of bedbound for the next several weeks, or kind of I have to elevate my foot high up, and so I kind of have to sit in specific chairs or on a couch, and so yeah. Anyways, we'll get the kinks worked out. We'll figure it out. I'll find a way to hook up like a camera if I can, and if not, it might just be like this for a while. But we're in it. We're in it to finish it this way. Okay, you guys. So just open up After Effects. Let's create a new project. Don't worry about that. I'm going to go to my default view. Default. Reset. Default. There we go. Okay, this is what you guys are going to see. I have plugins and other things on my computer that you guys don't need to worry about. But so we have this. We have the new project open. Let's save it right away. Save as desktop 184 After Effects. Hierarchies, robot arm. Perfect. Save. I don't care. Alright, so we've got it saved. Let's import. Let's go ahead and import that Illustrator file that we just did. But, oh my gosh, you got a new puppy? Oh no, why can't you keep the second one? Don't they love each other? That's what I would tell my wife. I'd be like, they love each other. They can't be separated. But I'm also an adult and can make those decisions and pay for them by myself. Where, like, when you're in school and you're working in school and doing all this stuff and you don't have time to, like, take care of a bunch of them, it's a different story, Or pets are expensive. My cat, Minerva, she had some medical complications happen end of last year, and it was a lot of money. Like, we put a lot of money into that little rascal. I mean, she gives us joy in our household, and we love them very much, and I know that's why everyone has a pet. They bring us joy and happiness, especially when we're having rough days. And so I'm one of those people that would do anything for my animals. But when we got our little kitten Seamus, the little gray one that has made an appearance, he had a sibling that we couldn't take either. Oh, what kind of dog is he though? We're gonna we'll see if I can ask around and see if anyone wants a puppy as well. Just let us know. How old is he too? all of a sudden, this class is gone. This this class has taken a little bit of a detour here, but I love animals, so I can talk about them all the time. But let's get back to this as well. Just leave that stuff in the chat for me, Sarah. And we'll kind of sidetrack slightly while we're doing this. But or you can Slack me. That'd be something as well. So I got this in here. Let's go ahead and import the Illustrator file. But the one thing I want you guys to remember when you're importing the Illustrator files, to import as a composition, right? If you don't import it as a composition, you won't retain your layers separately, and it'll all import is to one image, and that's not what we want, especially because we are going to be rigging this, right? And so let me right click here, import file, and we will go to where I have it saved on my desktop. Robot arm 2. Remember, down here, not footage. No, 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 no. Composition. Retain layer sizes. You don't have to do that. You can just hit composition and then import. And then, let me go ahead and double click this. If you double click this composition that's already made, then it'll just bring these all in here into your scene, right, and onto your timeline. And I believe everything's in the correct order. And then I'm just going to delete this reference layer because we don't need it anymore. This looks good. You guys might be hearing a cat in the background. I might mute my mic for a second, just 1 minute. I'm sorry to hear about your older dog's this. I'll look around. I'll ask around, sir, and then if I can find someone who might want to do that, we'll try and work something out, with you guys. But yeah, also anyone in class want a puppy? Check that out. Be responsible pet owners though. Like Drew Carey says on The Price is Right. He's the new one. Used to be Bob Barker, but it's Drew Carey now. Spay and neuter your pets, folks. Right? Be responsible. Alright, so we have all of our separate layers here. Okay. Let's do this different. Let's do the retain layer sizes. Control import, Control I, click that. Let's see what the difference is, I guess. I never really import that. Double click it. Yes. Import it? Yes. Okay, do it that way. Do not do it the first way that I had it. Let me rewrite this for you guys. T import as composition, retain layer size. And that way what it does is, before, when I imported it, each of the layers were like the size of the entire composition, which you don't want. You want it to be about the size of the actual object that you're working with right here, right? Like I only want this to be like this big for the arm and not the entire size of the composition. So retain those layer sizes and you should be good. All right, so okay, let's talk about rigging, right? We want to rig this because we want to rig it in the order that we want things to move, right? And actually, let me go back a second. Let me talk to you guys about kind of scaling this stuff and seeing what happens. So if I hit S on this base and I scale it all the way up. Because we worked in Illustrator, so it should be a vector, correct? So it should be the same, it should be consistently sharp no matter how we scale it, right? But when I scale this up, you notice that it's all of a sudden not sharp. It's kind of pixelated around these edges. That is because we need to select continuously rasterize this little button right here. And what that'll do, what that does specifically is it redraws the frame it redraws the image every frame so that we have maximum clarity. So then as soon as I select this, oop, wrong one. Select this one. Wrong again. There you go. Once I selected it, now all of a sudden it's sharp again. So make sure that you have continuously rasterized on all of these layers. And let's scale this back down. Hit scale. 100. All right. And so remember, you know, the first thing that I talked about when I said what is most important in rigging. Let's bring that back up here. Right here. Important things to remember when rigging. Anchor points, right? Where do they go? Let's hit on that part. So the anchor points go, remember, like we've been talking about all semester, wherever you want the motion or the transform property to happen around. And so, like this base, right? We want this base to move into frame. It's okay that it doesn't have wheels on it. I'm not that worried about it. But I want it to move from the bottom of the base. And so I'm going to just hit Y to grab that pan behind or that anchor point tool. And I'm going to grab that anchor point. And I'm going to hold down Shift. And I'm going to bring it right to the bottom. And now if we go to our link, actually if we go to our shoulder joint, we don't actually want the shoulder joint. Let me zoom this in. Oh, something else to remember. I hit continuously raster. Why is it still pixelating here? That is because it is not scaling the object. I am zooming in on my composition. In this, I am magnifying my composition right here. And so if I were to put this back at 100, 100, or at fit to screen or whatever, it's sharp again. And then if I were to scale this, grab this and scale it up, it's still going to look like that. But as I zoom in further, it's going to start to pixelate. It doesn't mean that it's not, it just has to do with like the viewer, the composition viewer, the scene. It's not anything to do with the actual layers or objects that you've drawn. So as long as you have this continuous rasterization on, you will be okay to scale everything and it will look clear. Even if it looks a little grainy right here when I zoom in on my composition. So back to where this anchor point goes. Most of this entire arm, the only transform properties that we're really going to use are position and rotation. You do not want to use scale, and I'll show you why in a moment. But the base isn't going to rotate, right? The base is going to be a positional change. And the rest of them really are going to be rotations. The only other thing that can be either a positional change or a rotational change is kind of dependent on your design that you create. And that's going to be your little grippers here, right? Because some of the grippers, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry if that made you guys go a little, your eyes twitch. I didn't mean to do that. But some of your designs might require the like grippers to move left and right, to open up. And some of them will require a rotation to move, to kind of open up to grab something. I'm going to use rotation on mine, but yours is kind of dependent on how your design is. Like this, for instance, the design that was done in a different class, specifically this one in the video here, is a positional change. And so it doesn't really rotate. And so that's going to kind of, like I said, that's going to be dependent on your guys' design. So just keep that in mind. But everything else is going to be a rotation. And so you got to think, where do I want this to rotate from? Where do I want whatever layer I'm working on to rotate from? And right now should be on this shoulder joint right here. And I want it to rotate from the center of my gear right here. Get it as close as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect. But then if I hit R and I start to rotate this, you guys can see how it's going to rotate, you know. We won't go too far out of the bounds of that, because if you start to go too far, you can start to see kind of like how the shadow gets thicker here and thinner here. Might not be something everyone notices, but it will be something I notice, because that's just kind of how I am. And so then let's go to this arm linked one, and this is going to move from the center of this gear. Let's kind of zoom in here. Sorry, I'm getting used to the trackpad on here on my laptop. It zooms in as well. Instead of just moving around, I need to hold. It's just, I need to stop using the trackpad. That's really what it is. But all right, and so let's move forward. The second arm, or link 2, is going to move from this joint, center of that joint, and then the wrist joint, let's go to that first because we're working our way down, is going to move from this spot right here, from the wrist. Kind of zoom in there. If you hold down that space, move over. Much better. Kind of zoom out. Let's move down and select these grippers. And I'm going to move in here. And I want this to kind of rotate from probably right about here. Center of this maybe. There we go. That works. I'm going to hit V. And this is great. Now we've got everything kind of, all of our anchor points are set on this. The only other thing we have to do at this moment is duplicate this little finger here and then change it over to this. So I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate this other finger here. And then I'm actually going to turn this into a 3D layer. And I'm going to hit R to rotate. I think it's just the... No, I think it's which one is it? This one, the Y. Holding down Shift, rotate it 180 degrees, and then P. Let's move it this way, so it's lined up to that other. The anchor point is lined up right in the center. Oh yeah, that was good. All right. There we go. So we have our robot arm fully created here. And so let's do our parenting. And again, like I've been saying, this is the order and how we do things. And the base is really going to only have position, possibly the grippers, but most of it's going to be rotation. Just kind of depends on the size. When the other part of my list that I had here, scaling, always remain at 100, 100. And that is because once things are parented, they will kind of get out of whack if you just start to scale things. And so the best thing to note is that if you need to change the relative size of a part of your robot, do it inside of Illustrator. Because then you shouldn't have any issues in here. So you might want to get that kind of really honed in first before you start to animate this, because I don't know if updating it in Illustrator will affect kind of where your anchor points are. Ooh, sorry, it's late at night for me. It's like 8 o'clock. But it might affect where your anchor points are. So I would suggest like really kind of just getting the shape and everything, or the size of everything and the proportions of everything down the first time. But let's do some parenting. So the one thing that's not going to really move more than once is this base, right? So everything's going to be connected to the base. This is essentially the anchor of your object. But what is connected to the base, right? So your shoulder joint is connected to the base. Literally, it's right there. And this is going, so we need to parent the shoulder to the base. And so you can do this in two ways. I know we talked on this briefly before, but here is the pick whip tool. And that is spelled like pick whip. Whip, cool whip. Pick whip. You can either click and drag that from one layer to the other to whatever one you want to parent, or what you can do is you can just click on this drop down menu right here and you can select whatever layer you want to add it to. And now if this is not there, I believe it's that one. Oh, not that one. No, it should always be there. You should always have the parenting thing here. If it's not for some reason, you just right click on the, if you right click over here and go to columns, you can just make sure your parent link is on there. And so the shoulder is going to be linked to the base, right? Essentially the base is going to be the parent, the main parent. Wherever this parent moves, the children follow, right? And that's kind of how you should think about it with parenting. When the parent transforms a property, the child follows in line, right? And if the child transforms in a property, the parent doesn't follow. The parent's not affected in that. So let me show you kind of what that means. If I parent this to the base, so the base is the shoulder joint is a child of the parent, which is the base. And then this link has to be, we want this to be linked to the shoulder. So we'll go to the shoulder joint. And then link 2, we want this link 2 to be linked to the first arm. And so we're going to link 1. And then the wrist joint, we need it to be linked to the second arm. So we will go to link 2. And then we need these grippers to be childs of the wrist joint. So notice how it kind of like all falls into an order, right? Everything kind of goes down and it ends at the parent, the master parent, which is the base. And so if I were to take this shoulder joint and I were to rotate it, it starts to rotate. Everything else goes with it. Now, notice how the base doesn't move, right? But if I were to take this base and I were to move the position of this base, everything goes along with it. If I were to, because this is a master parent, and any of the children, right? Remember the children, when they transform properties, it will not affect any of the parents to it, right? So technically, whatever these are linked to, whatever this one is the parent to that link specific. So the grippers are the child of the wrist joint, and the wrist joint would be the parent of the grippers. And then the wrist joint is the child to link 2. And link 2 is the child to link 1. And then link 1 then becomes a parent to the link 2. And so on and so forth until it goes all the way down to the line to the master parent here. And this is essentially kind of what I was talking about in the beginning of the class regarding like how your arm actually works. Like your whole arm, your elbow is clearly not controlled by your shoulder, but your whole entire arm is controlled by that shoulder. So wherever you move your shoulder, your whole arm follows, whether the rest of the arm is moving or not. Whether your wrist or your fingers are moving, it doesn't matter. The shoulder is the parent to the rest of the arm. So kind of think of this like, just start thinking of this like an actual human arm and how a human arm will work. And so let's go ahead and I'm going to select all of these and hit rotation just to make sure everything's kind of zeroed out here, because this one is not 0. All right. Now we want to start animating. Oh, here's I did want to show you this real quick. The scaling, right? So we have the shoulder joint. Let me hit scale on that and kind of show you what I mean by it. Just kind of when you scale it, it scales all of the children of those things, of that specific layer, but it doesn't scale the rest of here. And things can kind of quickly get out of control that way. And so that's why not 10%, 100%. And so that is the reason that if you need to change the size of things, change them in um, change them in Illustrator, update them that way. Let me see. Let me try something else real quick. Yeah, no. I don't know why I did that. I'm just trying something else. Shoulder joint. That's what I want. Okay. Save your work. Let's get to animating. So the first thing we want to do is let's animate this on screen, right? We want to animate it from off screen to on screen. So let's select the base and we're going to hit P. And let's separate these dimensions because we should only be using the X position. And we're going to throw a keyframe down. Let's move. This is 10 seconds. Let's move to like 1.5 seconds. Keyframe that at the position it is. Let me center this real quick. 960. There we go. Let me make sure it's fit up here. I'm looking at the entire thing. 960. Let's bring this down because this is going to extend up. So let me drop this down a little bit. Right there seems okay. Now I like even numbers, so 915. Or whole numbers. And so then we're going to go back to 0 and we are going to drag this off screen. Holding down shift. Keep it going. There we go. Negative 500. Oop. Wrong. There we go. Save that. And let us, if I just play it, this is gonna move in. Might be a little slow, but let's ease this real quick. Value graph. Select those and easy ease. And let's give this like a nice kind of quick Jurassic, like a smooth movement, right? We don't need it to be like a bounce, but we just kind of want it to be nice and quick here, and then like easing out of this first position into this position really smoothly. So let's look what that looks like. It's pretty nice. Not bad. I like it. In fact, though, I do not want it to be this far into... I want it to actually be a little bit shorter. So I'm going to drag this down because it's going to pick up a ball, right? This whole thing, the whole animation that's going to happen is this arm is going to go down. It's going to grab a ball. It's going to kind of cock back and it's going to chuck that ball into outer space. That's what we want it to do. And so I want to give it a little bit of room to grab the ball because I want the ball to be kind of like right around here. So that looks good. Let's kind of draw an instance of that ball right now so that we can animate around it. Let's select the ellipse tool. And let's just throw a temporary background in. New solid. We will say, let's do super pale blue. All right, that looks okay. Let's draw a circle. This is our ball. We don't want it that big because unfortunately my claw's not big enough. Actually, I might go and scale that up a little bit in here. Let's name this ball ground, and I will tell you why we name it this later. Ball on the ground. And let's change the color here. Maybe give it a little stroke. Definitely not 35 pixels. Let's change that to like 5. Does that look okay? That's not bad. It's a little thick for me. Let me drop that stroke down to 3. Okay, that's kind of cool. Let me put it down. Whoop. Grab the position of that, move it down here. Let's change the anchor point of the ball to the bottom so that we can kind of line it up to the base. And so if I hit P on the base, I can see that the Y, here, let's change this to 725. There we go. And then this one to 900. Ooh, but then I change this to 900. Okay, they're both 900. There we go. This one, let's update that anchor point. Then we're going to continue this on Thursday as well, after we go through after we can talk about the questions you guys have for this week. And then I'm just going to hit P on the ball and put that on the same Y position, 900. There we go. Okay, cool. Maybe bring it up a little bit so it doesn't look wrong. There we go. Those look good. I'm going to change a color, I think. Yeah. Orange. That's kind of cool. Okay, so right now the robot arm moves in. Let's move kind of right to here so we'll line this up and we'll maybe offset. No, let's offset it right now. Put that right there in between the 1 and the 1.5 seconds. And we want to animate the rotation of everything else. So I'm going to hit R here. And I'm going to click the rotation on everything. And do that. Is it the Z rotation? Which rotating section do we need for this? I'll click off of it so I'm not looking. Yep, it is the Z. Okay, cool. And this is kind of how it's going to start off. Let's select all of them and hit U. I'm working with limited space here, so like screen space. So I'll be conscious of that too. So this is kind of like our starting rotational position of everything. I'm going to kind of rotate this shoulder a little bit back, so I want it to kind of start off a little bit more like that. And then probably just -10, not too far off. And then let's kind of rotate this back. Negative. Maybe we go positive. Let's check here what I want to do. No, not that one. Link 2. Gonna kind of start it. Yeah, about -5. Up like that. And then this, let's do the wrist joint kind of like this. Let's do 15. Oh, that's almost like perfectly straight up and down. Okay, that's cool. That's kind of where I want the rotational properties to start at. And then I'm going to move it probably to 2.5 seconds. And I am going to rotate everything moving down. We want it to essentially grab that ball. But notice like how everything kind of curls into each other, right? So it's not fully rotating in the way I want it, but that's what my job is now, to adjust those types of things, right? So I want the shoulder to rotate slightly more. Actually, maybe that's good. Then this link one, the first arm, we kind of want this to drop down nice and low. And then this one, specifically the wrist joint, is the one that we really want to drop down. In fact, we're going to have to move the ball so that it's kind of matching up to this point. So I'm going to grab the ball, I'm going to hit the position, keyframe, I'm going to zoom in on here. And I'm going to move this ball over just a bit. And then I'm going to, let's see how far out we can rotate these little phalanges, i.e. fingers. It's not bad. We want to make sure that they are appropriately gripping the ball when they move down. Oh, where did my mouse go? For some reason, my mouse got stuck. Not bad. So, let's kind of look at this again right now. Fit. Play it back. It's going to zoom in. It's going to go down. Grab that. And then we want it to go back, right? So, here, there. Let's move it up to 5 seconds, where we want to move the shoulder joint back. And then the link 2, we're going to swing that one back, as well as link 1. So this link 2 doesn't have to go back as far. Keep the wrist kind of like that. I think the wrist actually can go back a little further, the wrist joint. Don't worry about the ball in the moment, we'll get that in a second. And then let's just keyframe the same positional values, or the same rotational values for the grippers right now. And then we are going to move forward, and we want to chuck that ball into outer space. So we are going to take that shoulder and we're going to move it forward. And then link 2. Link 1 kind of follows along this line pretty well. In fact, I'm going to move this shoulder joint a little less, maybe like to there. And then really I just want that link 2 to chuck that ball. And then the wrist is going to kind of let it go right about there. And then we will just keyframe, keyframe, keyframe the same positional values before. So let's kind of like play this out, right? Go here, go down, grabs it, chucks it. Clearly it's too slow. And the other thing that I notice while this is happening is it goes in, it grabs it, it doesn't stop for a second. And we need this to, we need the robot arm to kind of stay in this position for a moment, right here, before it grabs the ball and then chucks it into outer space or wherever it's throwing it. So let's take these keyframes right here, these rotational keyframes. We're going to move them over. And we kind of want to copy, we want to copy and paste the same values, right? And so I'm going to just go ahead, probably did the 3 seconds, give it a moment to, we'll work out the time in a second, but I want to copy and paste these keyframes right here. But remember, when you're copying keyframes, you cannot copy and paste multiple keyframes from different layers at the same time. If you try and do this, like if I hit Control C, Control V, it just copies the layers specifically, and that's not what I want. And so I have to, unfortunately, I don't know why they haven't put this as like an inherent um, option into here, or like a button that you can just grab them all and copy and paste them, which it would be much easier, but it's not like that. So you just have to come here and select each keyframe and Control C, Control V. Control, wrong, Control C, Control V, and so on and so forth. You just got to do one at a time. Oh, wrong. Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V. And so what's going to happen here is it's going to come over the screen, it's going to go down, and it's going to grab that ball, stay like that for a second. It's going to come down, and here's the spot where it's going to grip onto the ball. And then it's going to grab that ball and chuck it out into oblivion. And so the first thing, let's go ahead and tighten this timing up here of these keyframes. Let's bring it, because we want it to happen really quickly. So we're going to have it happen on a 12 frame, over 12 frames for that fast throw. Okay, much better. And then we kind of want it to end up back in the a similar position as that. It's coming in. Let's work on the timing real quick. That's appropriate amount of time, about like 3/4 of a second here. Takes a little time to grab it. This timing right here, let's space this timing out. How fast it kind of does, like the cocking back of the arm to throw it. Let's play this. Zooms in, grabbing it, throwing it. Okay, cool. And then, we'll work on this a little bit more with the easing, which in fact we could probably do. Let's do some easing right now. Yeah. So let's select all of these rotational keyframes, and we're going to go into here, and we are going to, wrong one, don't do that one. Let's select all of them. Ooh, wrong. Not worried about the ball. Grippers. These are the ones that don't really do much moving. Let's change the layer color of these ones so we can see them right away. Pee-pee. These, I didn't name these. Okay, these were like something I found online. Let's name this one to a Mario. It's a me. Let's go. The arms, we can change those two colors. Leave those blue, and then we can let's do the shoulder joint like Cash Money. The base can be Captain Phasma. The gray's a little hard to see. Let's do Mango. There we go. Okay, cool. Save your work. And then let us grab, let's go back here and grab them all like this. Oh, there we go. And we are going to then select them all this way, including this one. And let's ease them. And while holding down Shift, I'm going to grab these and just kind of pull them this way. Grab these ones and pull them this way to exaggerate that motion. So let's watch it come in. Comes in, grabs that ball. Nice. Let me kind of holding down Shift. I want to tighten the timing right around here. What is this? I think that's a rotation of a gripper. The rotation of the grips, like the fingers, are kind of weird. These we want to kind of be more straight. So let's redo this. Let's select these all again. Holding down Alt. Can I click on these? Cancel. Nope, wrong. What is it? Control? Nope. There's a way to change. There we go. If you select any keyframes and you hold down Control and you click on it when it's eased, it'll go back to linear. And I feel like it'll change them if you hold Control and you cycle through. It either goes from linear to continuous keyframes, but we want linear. You guys won't really be using continuous keyframes this semester, but there is a time and place to use them, just not right now. I think that if I were to grab this restraint and look at this, I think this looks fine. Just need to select all these keyframes and ease them, and then kind of drag them out. Maybe it's best if I do it all separately. I'm going to skip on the grips, the fingers, grab this one, select all of them. Drag, holding down Shift, dragging. Oop. Let's go back. Holding down Shift and dragging this way, and this way. And this one doesn't have to be. Hold down that Shift. Might bring that down a little bit too. We're going to ease, and then holding down Shift, let's drag, and then drag this way, and then same with this one. Ooh. No, why'd you do that? Oh, wrong. This one's the one we were looking at. Let's. I don't know, it's showing me all of them. I think I accidentally clicked on something. Now it won't show them to me separately. Oop. Ease those. Move into here. There we go. Trying to figure out what I did. I'm going to ease those out. Let's watch this again. Nice. Grabbing it and throwing it. Okay, cool. And then we will ease these ones. And then we'll take a look at these two specifically. Holding down Shift. I think some of them just got slightly like shifted incorrectly. Like I wasn't holding down Shift while I moved them, and so it kind of threw things off slightly. But I think this looks pretty good. If I play it back, nice smooth motions. Perfect. All right. And so all of these are eased. Let's kind of let's tighten up the speed here. I think this needs to move faster, to be honest. So I'm gonna grab these and move them in even tighter. Like I want it to go fast because it needs to throw this ball. That's slightly fast. Too fast. Sometimes a few frames counts. There we go. That's nice. Okay, cool. And then this spot right here where it goes back, I want to tighten the timing up of that as well. So I'm going to grab that, bring that to right about here, halfway, and then grab the ball, throw it. Nice. That's a good smooth motion that we have going there. And in fact, I'm going to take these values and kind of drop them down a little bit lower. Actually, I'm going to add another keyframe right here where this is just going to kind of continue to settle down. So it's going to like, the shoulder's going to rotate backwards, kind of more into its regular space. The link 1 is going to move a little bit forward. Actually, let's put the shoulder joint to 0. And then this one back slightly, like it's going to move kind of back to -5. And then we will move link 2 down like this. And then it's -20. And then the wrist joint, let's bring that down kind of like that. And then close those little grippers. Wrong way, in like this. Probably to, let's say 5. And then this one into as well. There we go. And in fact, I might drop this second link down a little bit more. And then the wrist back to 0. Almost like it's kind of just setting itself up again. Can even drop it down further if we want it more dramatic, right? We do that, drop the wrist like that. Let's see what this looks like. Grabs it, throws it, drops down. Let's have these ones kind of stay on there for a second so that it doesn't quite go to this spot right away. So I'm going to Control C, Control V. Let's see what this looks like. Grabs it, pause, throws it, jumps down. Okay. Let's see what this looks like. I want these to be, pull these arms out a little, holding shift, pulling these out, shift. There's something I'm not a big fan of right here, so I might work on this section a little bit. Throwing it. I don't even think it needs all these to stand down. Let me just delete all those keyframes. Throws it. Goes back. And then I'm not a huge fan of the way it's looking right now. I'm not sure whether it's just kind of too, like when I'm watching it, I mean, it's not terrible, right? Like I wouldn't be upset if I had this turned in. It's smooth motion, but it's also almost like it needs a pause up here for a little bit and then come down to there. So maybe I just needed to work on the timing of this. Control, let's zoom, let's undo it so we got this, and then move this kind of over. Maybe shorter, longer. Let's try a little longer. Throws it. And then this needs to be longer. Let's move this to here. So I like to usually work on like even spaces if possible. Maybe this, I know. Let's try this. Yeah, I like that so much more. Okay, so I just needed to work out the timing of it. Throws it and settles back down. That looks nice. Okay, and so we're going to stop right here. And then after we go through participation questions next week, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how it's going to pick up the ball. We're going to need 3 different iterations of the ball because we need it to stay along with this hand, right? And so we're going to have the robotic arm is going to pick the ball up and it's going to throw it into space. And then we're going to kind of put this more into a more finished composition with like a title in the background and more of kind of what you see in the example video, and then render this out. So this is the first step. You guys can go ahead and get a start on this and kind of get the ball rolling or get the robot rolling. I have the best like old people jokes ever. It's just how my mind works. You're lucky I don't charge you guys for these sweet jokes. But yeah, next week we'll add the ball, and then we're going to kind of add some finishing touches on this to make it a little bit cooler there. And we're going to maybe offset some of these keyframes as well, so like it kind of moves. In fact, let's do that really quickly. Let's try that first right now. Let's offset these a little bit. So the first one that goes is the shoulder. So, and the position's already offset. Let's grab this, all of these ones and move them over 2 frames, right? 1, 2, plus these ones. Oh, come on now. You won't let me do that? Okay, hold on. Let's try these first. Let's move it. Yeah, 2 frames over. Now we want to make sure that everything kind of is going to move. Ooh, hold on. 1, 2. Okay, that's where they need to be. We want to make sure that when it's offsetting, that they're moving in the same order, like down, kind of like a wave. Like when you do the wave with your arm, like at a game or something. And you start with like your wrist and it goes all the way to your shoulder and then your shoulder all the way down the hands. That's how we want it to work. So we have to make sure that we order this offset in the correct way. And so we did this one, and now the reason I'm selecting them all is because it's just easier to move them all at once and then offset them accordingly. So then we're going to move 2 more frames ahead and move these keyframes here. Because we needed the link to is what comes next. Now the wrist joint, right? So we need to just grab these 3 keyframes of these layers. Control arrow will move your playhead, and then we'll move this because we want the wrist to be next. And then let's control 1, 2, select these ones and move these ones over. We don't really have to offset the fingers, those are the grippers, they can move at the same time. And let's kind of look at how this plays out a little bit better. Looks a little bit more like it whips, right? We can adjust this a little bit more as we go. Maybe it's kind of like a little bit more exaggerated or cartoonish, right? That section I'm not a big fan of. Let me see. That part right there. Looks good in slow motion, but yeah, we'll touch more on this. I'm just gonna go back, set it normal, and then we'll work on that a little bit more because I don't want to do it off screen. I want you guys to see how we work through offsetting this stuff. because maybe it's better if we only offset a few keyframes of each layer. So we'll work on that as well on Thursday. But other than that, I hope you guys have a good night. Save your project. And I look forward to seeing all of your revisions and stuff that you guys do. And yeah, welcome back. Have a good one.